What if I told you that one of the most important people in Hollywood history wasn't a director, wasn't a producer, and wasn't even credited as the creative force behind the movies she helped make legendary? What if the person who helped save Star Wars, helped shape Taxi Driver, helped rescue American Graffiti, and influenced some of the greatest films ever made was largely erased from the story? Today, we're talking about Marcia Lucas, the Academy Award-winning editor who many film historians believe transformed Star Wars from a confusing sci-fi experiment into a cultural phenomenon. And when she passed away in May of 2026 at the age of 80, Hollywood wasn't just saying goodbye to an editor. It was saying goodbye to one of the greatest storytellers who ever sat behind a cutting room table. But here's the question that makes this story so fascinating. How can someone be responsible for shaping some of the most beloved movies in history and still remain unknown to millions of fans? Stay with me, because the answer reveals a side of Hollywood most people never see. Before Marcia Lucas was helping build cinematic history, she was just Marcia Griffin, born in Modesto, California in 1945. Her childhood wasn't glamorous. Her parents divorced when she was only 2 years old. Money was often tight, and unlike many future Hollywood legends, she didn't attend an elite film school. In fact, she was studying chemistry while working at a mortgage company. Then something unexpected happened. In 1964, she walked into a California employment office looking for work and was assigned a job as an apprentice film librarian. Think about that for a second. One random job placement, one ordinary day, and cinema history changes forever. Because inside those film libraries, surrounded by reels of celluloid, Marcia discovered something she was naturally gifted at: understanding how stories work. Not writing them, not directing them, but shaping them. Finding the emotional heartbeat hidden inside raw footage. And before long, she began climbing through Hollywood's editing ranks. Little did she know, another young editor was about to enter her life. A quiet, ambitious film school graduate named George Lucas. And together, they would help change movies forever. But first, Marcia would prove she could save a film. And trust me, the first movie she rescued almost never made it to theaters in the form audiences remember today. By the early 1970s, George Lucas was struggling. His latest project, American Graffiti, was a mess in post-production. The film ran more than 3.5 hours. The pacing dragged, the story felt unfocused, and studio executives weren't impressed. That's when Marcia stepped in, and what she did was radical. Instead of following the story in a rigid chronological way, she broke it apart, rearranged scenes, cut entire sections, condensed storylines, and transformed the movie into something that felt alive, fast, energetic, nostalgic. The result? American Graffiti became one of the most profitable films in Hollywood history, and Marcia earned her first Academy Award nomination. Now here's what's interesting. Most people celebrate directors, but movies often live or die in the editing room, and Marcia was becoming one of Hollywood's greatest lifesavers. Soon, another legendary filmmaker noticed, a young director named Martin Scorsese. When Martin Scorsese needed someone who understood emotion, he called Marcia Lucas, and what followed was one of the most underrated collaborations in film history. She edited Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, worked on Taxi Driver, and helped shape New York, New York. Now imagine the challenge. Scorsese's films weren't about spaceships or fantasy, they were psychological, raw, messy, human. Yet Marcia adapted perfectly, because her real talent wasn't tied to any genre. It was understanding emotion. She knew exactly when to speed up a scene, when to slow it down, when to linger on a face, and when to cut away. Years later, she described her gift perfectly. She said, "I have an innate ability to take good material and make it better, or take bad material and make it fair." That might sound modest, but what happened next would prove just how true it was. Because while she was helping Scorsese create masterpieces, George Lucas was fighting a battle of his own. A battle called Star Wars. And according to people who worked on the film, the original cut of Star Wars was a disaster. This is where the story becomes legendary. Today, it's hard to imagine. Star Wars is one of the most successful franchises in entertainment history. But during production, many people thought it would fail. Badly. The early cuts were confusing. The pacing was slow, the action lacked excitement, and George Lucas was panicking. So he turned to the one person he trusted most, Marcia. What happened next has become film industry legend. Together with editors Richard Chew and Paul Hirsch, Marcia essentially rebuilt the movie. But her influence went far beyond editing. For example, do you know why Obi-Wan Kenobi dies? That was Marcia's idea. She argued that Obi-Wan needed to become a spiritual guide for Luke. It would make Darth Vader more threatening, and it would give Luke a powerful emotional reason to grow. George initially resisted. Eventually, he agreed, and one of the most important moments in movie history was born. But that's not all. George often wanted to remove small character moments he considered unnecessary. Marcia fought to keep them. The funny moments, the emotional moments, the human moments. Because she understood something crucial. Audiences don't fall in love with special effects. They fall in love with characters. And then came the Death Star trench run. The sequence fans still cheer for nearly 50 years later. The original version didn't work. It lacked tension. It lacked urgency. It lacked emotion. Marcia tore it apart, then rebuilt it. She added a ticking clock, focused attention on Luke, eliminated unnecessary repetition, and carefully structured Han Solo's last-second arrival for maximum impact. She famously told George, "If the audience doesn't cheer when Han comes back, the picture doesn't work." She was right. The audience cheered. They still do. And in 1978, Marcia Lucas won the Academy Award for Best Film Editing, a golden statue that represented far more than technical excellence. It represented the power of storytelling itself. But here's where the story takes a heartbreaking turn. Despite helping build the Star Wars empire, Marcia's own place in its history began to disappear. Her marriage to George Lucas ended in 1983, and after the divorce, something strange happened. As official Star Wars histories expanded, Marcia's role seemed to shrink. Many of her contributions were minimized. Some were omitted entirely, and over time, newer generations of fans barely knew her name. The irony is staggering. One of the people most responsible for Star Wars becoming a success became one of the least recognized figures in its history. Yet those who were actually there never forgot. Mark Hamill openly praised her influence. Film historians repeatedly highlighted her contributions. Editors throughout Hollywood recognized her brilliance because they understood something audiences often don't see. Movies are written 3 times, once on paper, once during filming, and once in the editing room. Marcia Lucas mastered that third version better than almost anyone. And decades later, after remaining mostly silent, she finally revealed what she really thought about modern Star Wars. For years, Marcia stayed quiet. She avoided public drama. She rarely discussed the franchise she helped create. Then came a series of interviews that shocked fans. She criticized the prequel trilogy, she criticized the sequel trilogy, and she argued that modern filmmakers fundamentally misunderstood what made Star Wars special. Her biggest complaint? Emotion. She believed the franchise had drifted away from character-driven storytelling, away from the humanity that made audiences care. Whether people agreed with her or not, her perspective carried enormous weight. Because she wasn't speaking as a critic, she was speaking as one of the architects, someone who helped build the foundation itself. And when she spoke, the film world listened. When Marcia Lucas passed away in 2026, tributes poured in from across Hollywood. They described her as brilliant, generous, groundbreaking. But perhaps the most accurate description is this: she understood people. She understood emotion, and she understood how stories connect with audiences. Her legacy isn't just Star Wars. It's every editor who fights for character over spectacle, every filmmaker who values emotion over noise, and every movie lover who believes great storytelling is about making us feel something. So the next time you watch Luke destroy the Death Star, or Han Solo return at the last second, or Darth Vader find redemption, remember this: you're not just watching George Lucas's vision. You're also seeing the invisible fingerprints of Marcia Lucas, the woman whose cuts changed cinema forever. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the hidden figures who shaped Hollywood history. And tell me in the comments, do you think editors deserve more recognition for the success of great films? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.